Hi, everybody. I'm JoYi. Welcome to the Practice Center, where we practice all things
mindfulness, forgiveness, attitudinal healing.
Yes. This is Alison Wagner. She's with me today to talk about how you got suckered in.
Hi, my name is Alison Wagner. Long-time listener, first-time caller. How did I get sucked in? Well, a friend and I were going to this great fitness studio called Moxie Fitness, and they're also having this meditation group. And she was like, "Oh, let's go to this meditation group." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds stupid." Went to it, started to like it. Everything was cool. And then there was this class coming up, and I read just mindfulness. I guess I ignored the forgiveness part. I don't know what had happened, but I signed up for this class, and there was mindfulness and forgiveness. I went through the process. I really liked it, but I don't think I was actually there for the first time I went through that class.
That's what I always wonder about you, Alison, is because every time we talk about this, you mentioned that you didn't like it, wasn't really present for the things, you don't really remember feeling, but I liked it, is what you end with. And I want to know just like a little bit about what awareness did you have? What was the liking it about?
In general, the type of person I am is I don't like to try a lot of new things. Like my best example would be just food in general. I'm a picky eater. And so if I try something new, my first reaction is always, ugh. I make a face. And so anything that's new is uncomfortable to me. And my first reaction is always, ugh. And it takes me a while to kind of digest it and process it and be like, maybe I did like it. There was like one or two things in the mindful forgiveness class that I do remember like actually liking on the day of. But there's 6 weeks of class, and there was like 1 or 1.5 of those classes that I was like, yeah, I dig this. Everything else, but that, like it was the unenforceable rules section for me. That was like, ooh, I get that. And it was something that I could like work on now, and I didn't have to look at the past or think about this. I was like, yeah, I could do this part. And then when you start to do that kind of stuff, then, a couple months later, it was like, oh, maybe I should try this again, but this time maybe it'll taste different. It's just like with all things like working out or something, I'm like, I don't like it. And then I keep going back to the class. So I don't know.
So then we fast forward several years, where you have agreed to lots of different volunteer things, as well as became a facilitator. You've run your own groups. So can you talk a little bit about what brings you into kind of the business side of it or the work side of it? And what do you see? Like, what do you want out of the practice center? When you hear it in your mind, what do you hear?
I hear a place for me and people like me continue to do the work. Because that's the part, like, I think conceptually, I was talking about this kind of stuff, chatting with my friends the other day, like all of this stuff is like not new, amazing. It's not new news. It's like all good concepts. I don't have these things on my wall, but like, live, laugh, love, like what a great concept. However, how do you live, laugh, love? Like, how do you do those things? And so I need help practicing those things so I can be centered, so I can do this stuff called living. So that's kind of what I see it as. Like part of my wanting to become a facilitator was a little bit of selfishness of wanting to keep myself in the process as well and share it with people, because I'm like, I found this really useful. And I think others would too. And maybe they only take the one thing like I did from the first class, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Type stuff. So that's it's kind of both. But yeah, basically a place, digital, physical, whatever, to practice together is what I see it as.
This past 2 months, November and December of 2021, I've cried a lot. It's been really stressful. It feels like I'm flushing money down the toilet while I'm not getting paid because a state contract, it's just stupid. It takes so long. And so there's a lot of like pressures that feel like I'm feeling a little bit closed in. On top of just the running the business part of the practice center, I'm not a businessy person. I'm a creative. Like I like to present and I like to blah, and I'm like, and I'm like, oh, let me make a Canva thing about it. That's like the part that I like to do. So the business end on top of kind of just trying to live life has felt very constricting. I feel like that's nothing in comparison. So if we're playing the comparison game, and hello, we're human, so we have to. If we're playing the comparison game, I look at some of the things that you've gone through the last few months, and I'm like, oh shit. All right, I see you, and I'm gonna stop bitching so much out loud in front of Allison. So not only have there been some tough things and some great things happening for you, on top of those things, you also called me and was just like, yeah, I want to just lean in a little bit more into helping you with the practice center. So can you talk about whatever you want to talk about last 2 months, plus how this is going to end up in like the greatest business on the planet?
Put my way back hat on and just kind of preface with, there seems to be something, I don't know, I'm not a believer in hooey, bluey, fluey, whatever stuff, but I need a lot of, again, because of this little nervousness around new things, I need a little bit of a push. And sometimes the universe is like, poof, there you go, baby bird, off the cliff. And so when I first started to become a facilitator, okay, like kind of a lot of back and forth in my head. When I think about things a lot, I'm like, okay, I've thought about this for the last couple months. I probably want to do it, even though I'm trying to talk myself out of it, because I'm trying to talk myself out of things. That means I probably really want to do it type situation. So in the last, so now we arrived to, 2020, we're just going to pretend like we don't know her. We never met her. We don't know what happened during that year. 2021 was like, okay, things are kind of getting a little bit more organized and better. I'm feeling generally better, getting more leveling off altitude at my cruising altitude. I had some interesting phone calls. So again, preface then, me and my parents have a little bit of a strained relationship. And so interesting phone calls from my dad, kind of in these weird, like more connecting, emotional, like what is going on? Like, why is he, what is going on over there in my parents' home? And then it started to get more serious. And I'm like, okay, something's really going on, to the point where one morning, I'm talking to my dad and I'm like, my mom was having a medical episode and I was like, you just need to call an ambulance, like whatever. And on the phone, I hear the lights and sirens on, which I know is a bad sign. And I'm like, okay, like this is bad. I'm crying now, but I'm like, okay, Dad, I'll talk to you later. Turns out it's like a very serious thing. And if you are familiar with any mindful forgiveness stuff and or whatever, but basically she's the villain in my story. I have a very strained relationship with her. She has a lot of mental health issues and I just don't know how to deal with her. And there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of stickiness around my mom. And so I found myself in a couple of days packing up to go to Florida for an undetermined amount of time to potentially plan a funeral. Who knows? It was very unsure. And the night before, of course, the night before I'm flying, my car gets broken into, my battery's stolen. And I end up just like crying at my car, just like, what the fuck else could go wrong right now? Why? Universe, chill out. I don't need any more tests. I get it. It's game day. I'm practicing my breathing and I'm not calming down right now. Having that month in Florida with lots of ups and downs, being a caregiver for some parts, medical note taker and helping make decisions and all this other complicated stuff, was definitely like just realizing like, what do I actually want to be doing right now? Like, I just don't, and then of course, right in that thing, and also get a call from my job. It's like, by the way, you're also getting furloughed next year. So it's like, oh, great. Like so much stuff. And of course, like all these things, my car broken into and all the stuff stolen out of it and the furlough and everything just feels little compared to somebody potentially losing their life or, all this other kind of stuff. Even if it's somebody that I don't really like, most of the time, sorry, Mom, but I have free time on my hands. What do I want to do next year? And so that was something where I was like, I want to invest more in the practice center, and because I've been doing a lot of me work, which is good, but I'd like to do a little bit more us work, if that makes sense.
But there is a timeline that we let go of when we went through this process and took it seriously, right? There was a very clear trajectory that I was on, that I am no longer on, but every once in a while I can get a glimpse of her and going, oh my God, that JoYi would not have handled that well, right? Even if this JoYi is not handling it perfectly, it's clearly a different timeline for me. Do you have any sense of that? And if so, like, what do you think that month would have been like pre-MF?
Way different, because I had already planned a trip just to visit my sister who lives in a different area. I don't want to say she's more family oriented, but she is. Like, she'll run down and help in a heartbeat. She's a very giving person. And so I think if this would have happened, I either wouldn't have gone early, so I either wouldn't have showed up, or I would have just canceled my trip entirely and been like, I'll just come when she's out of the hospital. Or if she's dead, I'll come and help out, like come to the funeral, and I'll plan it from here. Because a lot more like, I am not a confrontational person. And I still am not a confrontation. I don't like confrontation still, but I would have massively avoided it prior to. But now I went there thinking like, this is going to be hard, but I can do it. And I'm doing it for like people like my sister and her family. And for me, more so for like running to help my mom, if that makes sense.
You know, there's a lot of memes lately that I've seen, especially at the end of the year. We talk a lot about taking the garbage out or getting rid of toxic people, even if they're family. Toxic is toxic. And, you know, like this, you know, just hatchet it off, cut it off, right? So this example that you just gave, it's almost in the face of that. You know, if that's your villain and if that's not a person that makes you feel good and you don't like confrontation, why wouldn't you saying, I'm not going to come and I'm going to take care of it from afar? Why wouldn't that have been the healthier choice? And what makes like, so is mindful forgiveness some sort of manipulation to get you entangled with the people that aren't serving you well? So if that's the question I threw at your face, what would you say to that?
The times that I've gone through the process, I try to unravel a little bit more around her and that story. And so I've done a lot of work and I'm not totally unraveled, and I still don't know if I always make the right decisions around her, but at least I know with the mindful forgiveness process, I'm less like reactive to thinking about her. So I could sit and actually wonder like, is this something I want to do? And I sat and I kind of thought about it and I was like, okay, like, not really, but also I kind of want to do it more for my sister or for this person instead of, and for me, instead of for them, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, and being there for them is a happy alternative for them. She was very appreciative. You know, it took a month for a thank you, but she was very appreciative of me.
You got one?
You got a thank you on the last night.
Wow.
So, and I would have been okay without a thank you, but it was very good to have a thank you too. Because I've done this work, I could make a decision not based on like reacting to the situation and be like, okay, do I actually want to do this? All right. And then when you get there, you know, the moments are different choices and all that other stuff. And I had some excellent, beautiful MF moments and some really not beautiful moments. But I was able to handle it, you know.
And be present.
Yeah.
I love that, because the self-forgiveness piece is what comes to mind. When I'm reactive and I'm like, fuck everybody, and I'm reactive, later on, then when I have some more space, I can unravel, oh shit, I should have been there for my sister. Or the regrets of the pieces that I didn't pick up is what then I lug around and then have to forgive myself for, right? Mm-hmm. For not having the skills and not having, so to be able to do that proactively, to say, this isn't really about my mom and I, it is, but it's also about me and about my other, I mean, you have nieces and nephews who all get so much from their interactions with you. So I love that you pointed that out.
And for me as a person, I think one of the things that I know about me is that I do avoid feelings or run away from feelings. So even if it maybe isn't ideal, like, you know, I should be cutting these people off, I feel like for me, at least, that's like a version of running away from the problem, and it's still allowing that person to bother me.
Right.
So I'd rather almost like, I don't know if it's like a masochistic thing, but almost like, okay, this is a good test for me. Like, how much does this person do? How many hooks do they have left in me? You know? So that was kind of another reason why I was like, if I'm scared to go there, I still am not
free.
Yeah, free, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's never one advice is good for everyone or good for every person in every situation. It is that piece about the awareness. That's what I love about attitudinal healing, forgiveness, mindfulness work. It's not about achieving some weird end goal. It is, can you create spaces of awareness where you can truly decide in that moment? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so when I see the practice center, and I go, this is just another one of these things that I just sat up and made up a name and made up a logo, and I'm gonna half-ass it until I'm over it. Feels, maybe it's because I'm wiser and older now, but it feels like it deserves more attention and deserves for it to be done right. And so when I think about the practice center moving forward, because this is my year of, I want a little bit more discipline, and I want to do the things that I don't usually like doing, because leave it up to me, I'll just present and make videos. And if somebody could edit it and put it up and fix my website and put out the newsletter and then do the billing, oh my God, I would be in heaven. But I know that can't be done, right? So when I think about the practice center, I think, all right, there's a you and a me times of, I don't know, thousands out there, right? Millions, you and a me that, I don't know, was tight and sad and miserable. And somehow this process has really helped untangle me. Passing that on comes in a couple of different ways. Is we want to host live retreats. We're going to continue to do online training, face-to-face trainings, more training and supporting of facilitators, hopefully reach people through this medium of videos and audio stuff. So when you see the practice center, like, what do you see happening there, and who is drawn to it, and what role are you playing in that?
what do I see is more of the doing. I would very much love, like, I super duper miss meditation circles. And then we were doing these like first Sunday outdoor meditations, and I haven't been to one for a while because of being out of town for family and work stuff. And I've found those very important to keeping me on track and to, I don't know, not feed off other people's energy, but it just like, yeah, you're in this cool little situation with other people all doing like something similar. And everybody reports in after, like, I had a great meditation, or I couldn't meditate for crap, or whatever it is, but everyone has that day, and that's fine. I'm digging the online classes as well, because then it's like a further reach. So I've been able to reach out to friends that are in other states or people that I know in other places, which feels very like big and cool. You know, we have stuff coming up that's like training from people in other countries even, which is like my childhood brain couldn't even fathom being in another country, you know, at some point in my life. Like, I can only picture Florida, like Miami and Philadelphia. Those are the only two places in the world that I had knowledge existed. Like, we talk about like being, you know, being local and present, but it is also cool to see other people's local, like, be like, okay, like, I'm here, I'm working on this part of the world, but also everyone else all over here has the same thoughts and feelings and emotions too. Yeah. And then you share that stuff, and then they go and like, I was gonna say infect, but I'm still they go and spread in their parts of the world, you know. And the other cool thing I like is like about sharing the stuff is like those people take something and digest it a certain way and regurgitate it out to someone else that, you know, will learn it a different way. Like, I always think I used to coach roller derby, and I would at practice say the same thing like 4 different ways, because that's what I heard from different coaches. And I'd be like, okay, this is how you do a stop. You could do X, Y, Z, or B. And everyone would do it different, but they'd all do the stop, you know? Yeah. So like, everybody needs an interpretation of something from someone else. So
I love that. That's a great example.
Yeah. And then we're all doing the work. We're just learning it different or doing it slightly different or whatever, but we're all accomplishing a thing, you know? So that's kind of, and then I see my part. I think for me personally, I just want to be more regular. I kind of participate in these like crescendo waves where I'm like, everything, I'm disappearing for 3 months. Everything, I'm disappearing, you know? So if I could be more, or at least more like undulations rather than big crescendo. My target audience was, I wanted to work with like veterans and military people, because I'm in the military as a reservist now, but prior active duty. So that's been my kind of like want and reach, but I haven't been fully like committing to that. And I think a lot of that was just fear of like, oh, I'm not military enough for them, or veteran enough, or I'm a girl and it's mostly men and they're not gonna listen to me, and all these other stupid things that I tell myself to kind of back myself out of it. Kind of like in the other classes I've done, just trying to like attack my friends. And I think part of why they signed up for things is because they've noticed a change in me. So those people, you know, that are like my immediate community have been like, like Nerf's a little different. That's my derby name, is Nerf. Or Alison's a little different, you know, or she's posting about this stuff, or, you know, what is this? What do you keep talking about? Like even when I was in Florida last, one of my sister's dude's relatives was like, hey, what is this mindful forgiveness thing that you're posting about? And I was like, oh, it's a class. Like we could do a class, whatever. And she's like, I don't really have anything except for this person. And I was like, okay, well, that might be a thing. She was like, yeah, but I'm over her. And I was like, did you feel over her? And she's like, no, you're right. I probably could go to a class. So I'm like, even though I sometimes feel like I'm yelling into the wind and I don't know who my community is, there are people that are my community that are interested, that I've been working with. But I think next year I want to put my tendrils more into my military community as well.
Awesome. That hollering into the wind, man, I feel you. Years I've been doing this. And sometimes I'm like, why am I just literally sitting here talking to myself again? Because I need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not yelling at you about stuff. I'm actually reminding myself sometimes to do this thing.
That's right.
So yeah.
The final question, Alison. Okay, so just take a moment and just feel 2021. And I want to end with, what are you most proud of? I mean, you have a gold freaking medal right there with you. So there can be that, but I'm just saying, generally, woo!
Yeah, I'm most proud of running a marathon.
That was so easy. That was such low-hanging fruit, man.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't think about that. I was like, most proud of. Oh my God.
Okay, so besides the medal, and talk about that too, but then maybe something else that you are really proud of yourself this year.
I think, and it ties back to that gold medal. I think I am most proud of like the way I am handling stressors this year. Like last year, even though I had all my mindfulness tools and I knew all the things and I felt some of them, like I was coming off of a death of a close friend in late 2019, and then the pandemic hit and civil unrest, like the whole world was falling apart. And I was like, I can't have the world fall apart when I'm still sad about my dead friend. Like this can't all happen at the same time. So I just feel like curling up in a ball and dying. And I second guessed a lot of everything that I did, like down to like, should I post this? And what? I mean, just like that level of anxiety of just not good, you know? So 2021, even though like my friend's still dead and the world is still in a pandemic and everything still sucks sometimes, I don't feel like I'm trapped in a tiny little walnut anymore. I'm just trapped in like a bigger box. And I sometimes still notice that I feel trapped and tight and itchy. But I even like my friend's analogy is like, we're all hermit crabs. And I think it's like an analogy on the internet too, so she didn't invent it. But Sometimes your shell just gets tight and itchy. And I think last year my shell was very tight and itchy. And instead of shedding it and moving on to my next shell, I just lost it in my shell. And this year I've let go of that itchy shell. I've put on a new shell. It's a little big and uncomfortable, and I'm still a little crazy and weird, but I feel a lot better of how I've dealt with everything that's been thrown my way this year, including finishing a marathon, which I will show this off again because I am very proud of this. I ran the 20, walked.
You rocked it, man.
2021 Honolulu Marathon that was supposed to be done in 2020, but obviously that didn't happen. And so it was very hard. It was very much like the symbol of this year, like very hard. I was not prepared enough because I made a lot of good excuses for myself, but I handled everything well. And I was able to handle it because I had friends with me. I had a friend that walked with me at the end that helped me through the finish line. So it was like all of the stuff that you need to do, like surround yourself with good people, don't disconnect, hydrate, whatever, all the stuff that I needed to do. I did it and I was able to accomplish. So long answer short, I ran a marathon and handled shit better.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me. That's it. That's it for us. So just look in the camera and say bye.
Bye. Thank you.